Hello, everybody. Welcome to 3 Point Perspective, the podcast about illustration, how to do it, how to make a living at it, and how to make an impact in the world with your art. I'm Jake Parker.
I'm Lee White.
And I'm Samantha Cotterill, and let's jump into it.
Okay, so today we're talking about what or who are you actually making your art for? Okay. The question is are you trying to impress that one artist that you follow on Instagram, or are you creating something that speaks to your actual audience? And I think sometimes it's easy to fall into the trap of making work to prove yourself to your peers or to the industry or to, I don't know, some imaginary jury that's in your head, like art jury. But if your art's meant to connect to other people or to tell stories or to serve others, the question is, are you sure you're aiming in the right direction with the art that you're making? So today we're going to talk about who you're making your art for, asking the uncomfortable but necessary question, who is your audience? And how do you know you're creating for them? This is actually a topic Samantha threw out at us a couple weeks ago. And I was like, yeah, that's a good one. We should talk about that day. So I think just to kick it off, let's just each answer that question ourselves individually here. Who do you make your art for, and who's your audience?
Yeah. I mean, I think no matter what your genre is that you're working in, I think it can be easy to get caught up in creating work for the wrong people, so to speak, where oftentimes you can easily get caught up in trying to impress a fellow creator. And so you want their approval, or you're trying to get a critic's approval. And so you start adjusting your work and trying to create something that's going to impress them. And then because of that, then you lose sight of the actual audience that you're creating the book for. And then you maybe are perhaps creating work that they're no longer going to be interested in. And I just think I saw the other day this quote from, I think I have it here, this even from Mo Willems, and he said, "If I start thinking about what librarians or critics or parents want, I'm dead. I just focus on the kid. The kid is the boss." And that's just something that really resonates, and I have to remind myself of, because it can be easy to get caught up in working for the wrong audience and really not thinking about the reader that's picking up your book and what they would really connect to with what you make. I don't know. Have you felt that way, Lee? Have you ever gone through periods of that?
Well, let me. I'm going to flip the script back to you real quick, because you're the one that's sort of resonating with this. So did you feel that about your own work? Because there's so many different kinds of work that we're doing at SVS, and between Jake and we're all throwing images at each other all the time. Have you felt that pressure to make something different than what's to your audience, or so what prompted you to sort of think about this? Or
Well, I just think it's when you start going down this career path, and I noticed when my first few books, they weren't that good. They were drawn horribly. And like my Charlotte and the Rock, the drawing is not good. But it was before I really knew about the industry, before I was aware of what Kirkus was, what I didn't even know what Caldecott, I hadn't really heard of Caldecott medals. I hadn't heard of all of this stuff. I was a very kind of clueless as to the whole kid lit world when I went into it. And so when I did Charlotte and the Rock, I remember when I drew it, again, the drawings were rusty. It had been a long time since I had drawn. But I went into it just making something that I thought kids would love, or that my kid self would love, and what would make me laugh if I was reading it as a kid. And I think that book ended up being translated into, I don't know, like 12 languages. And so many kids connected with that book, where you have every year for kind of those school events where people dress up as characters, I'll often get these so amazing kids dressed up as Charlotte with this pet rock from the book. And it just really connected with kids. And then as I got into my career, I started to probably get some imposter syndrome. I was becoming more aware of other people's work, because then I think a lot of that was due to insecurity and wanting to succeed, but then seeing other people that I thought were far past me and I wanted to impress them. It just snowballed. And then learning about awards and getting reviews. And it all started to just fuddle with me, where
Mm-hmm.
I started to create things to impress other people that were
Mm.
not the kids that were reading. And it got to the point where I was making some books that were um, beautiful. I mean, I'll say I feel like I achieved something that was quite lovely to look at, but I noticed that the readers that were really loving those books were the adults and the other creators, and I was getting less of the kid feedback. And I'm thinking, well, wait, who am I making these books for
Yeah.
in the end? And I'm starting to target the wrong people.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So I don't know. And I just think it's probably something that's quite common
Mm-hmm.
amongst a lot of artists that compare or feel a bit insecure or want to try to impress somebody. And I think it's easy to get
Yeah.
in that trap. I don't know. Do you have that experience with any of yours, Jake?
Yeah, so I remember finally realizing that I can be a fan of something and not have to contribute to that genre or that fandom
Yeah.
in order to feel like I'm a part of it, right? But for a while there, I was like, well, I love action comics that have like, some intense scenes of, some good fight scenes and some really cool sci-fi stuff. And and I realized that even though I love that stuff, and some of it can be darker and some of it can be like more a little bit more mature. When I try to do that stuff, it doesn't feel authentic. Like it feels like me reaching a little too hard. But when I am naturally just making comics, they come out more like an all ages, almost like I think Pixar-ish comics, where it's like older school Pixar, right? Where it's like, let's make something that parents and kids enjoy enough, enjoy together
Yeah.
equally, right?
Yeah.
And so once I realized like I can make stuff that I can make Jake Parker comics or picture books or whatever, and I can be a fan of, you know, I don't know, Breaking Bad or something like that, and um, and it and it's okay. Like I don't have to make a comic about drug cartels in order to feel like I'm, you know, being fulfilled as an artist. I can make a comic about a space mouse who,
Hmm.
is in a sort of a Star Wars type world, right? Doesn't mean I also love Star Wars and stuff like that. And Star Wars is pretty all ages as well. But yeah, I also do the thing too. There was a while there too where it's like, um, I'm posting my stuff online for a particular audience, but then my professional publishing work is for an entirely different audience. And for a while there, I was like, how do I even reconcile these two? Like, everybody who follows me on Instagram is like in their 20s or 30s,
Hmm.
and everybody who buys my artwork or buys my book is a parent of an 8-year-old,
Yeah.
So what even is the purpose of my Instagram account if it's not serving the published work that I'm doing, or is it just another outlet for me? And should I treat it just like an outlet instead of a professional marketing tool, which a
Yeah.
lot of artists try to treat it like?
Right. Like, is that more just your creative
Yeah,
community of just sharing work with other creatives and not necessarily your buying audience, so to speak?
right.
And yeah, and so we're making books that appeal to both. Like, I have to think about the main audience is the kids, and then, yeah, the parents that probably have to read the book to their kids. You want them to enjoy it as well,
Hmm.
as well, especially if they're reading it over and over and over again. But I think I was just getting caught in this loop where I was starting to probably, and that's on me, and I was letting it get to me, and I was letting it que- allow myself to question my own self-confidence of who I was and what was considered good art, in terms of the books were getting more fine art looking,
Hmm.
and the panels and the awards for certain books were getting more fine art looking, and I almost felt like, oh well, I want to show that I can do that too, that I'm, and for
Mm-hmm.
some reason thinking that maybe my stuff is getting too commercial or
Mm-hmm.
cartoony or less, and so it was getting all messed up in my head, and I realized I was just not looking at it the right way, and I was
Yeah.
allowing it to affect all of that. And so now I'm really paring back again, and I'm trying to remember who's my audience. And I've said this many times in the podcast before about thinking about your audience, but I'm like really thinking about my audience now.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it's a good point. I think I've sort of land where Jake does, where I am just making stuff. I mean, I'm really interested, so there's never a time for me where I'm like, oh, this everybody's doing this thing, or there's accolades because of this kind of look or something like that, and then so I'm like, oh, I should probably be doing that too. So I don't ever chase that, but I'll also go down this road where I'm just like, I'm just making stuff I like, and sometimes I just don't have the focus on who this is for. Now, I'm like, my whole last year, which I almost took this like side detour, was both fulfilling and frustrating because like I did a watercolor painting and I was like, I can do this better. That's what started this whole last year of my life. I was like, I did the watercolor painting. I was like, I can do this better. And then I was like, I really don't totally know this medium. And so I went down a technical road where I wasn't even concerned with the images. I'm just concerned with like, can I paint this way? Can I control this medium in some kind of way that's pleasing and consistent? Like it's not just lucky, and it's really hard to do. And I sometimes will go down too much of a technical sort of rabbit hole, and then at the end, like sort of come back up. I don't know if you guys feel that way. Almost like coming out of a movie theater. You know, you're almost disoriented. And I put away the watercolor stuff for like a week or two, and then I come back up, and I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta make some stuff. Like I'm a storyteller naturally. Like I feel that way. That's like my baseline. I like to tell stories. But I realized I haven't done a children's book in a long time, and I really do like doing those kind of things. And so, you know, talking about getting a new agent and talking about doing some new books. And then I go back and look at the work I've done. I'm like, I got a picture of a watercolor painting of a boat. Like that's not for this audience in any way. And so like, then I had to just in the past like 3 weeks go, all right, I got to shift back gears and go back into the stuff that I like as a kid. You know, for the kids book stuff really is stuff that I liked as a kid. And I feel like that's one attribute that, or one list in my sort of pro column is that I really can tap into that for what I liked as a kid very quickly and very easily. And so then I started making images for that audience again, but it is a very conscious choice. Like these are the images I want to make. Here's the stories that I want to tell. Here's the palette that I want to use. Here's the marks that I want to make. And hopefully all those coalesce into something that other people like. I hope that's the case because I can't at this point divert it to something different that might be more sellable or more, it's just the images that I want to make. And I would rather make these images and not sell them if people are like, no, these suck, I don't like them. I'd rather just make them and not sell them versus chasing a commercial avenue or a commercial sort of viewpoint on them. I don't know, but I am thinking about the one problem that I have here, and this is so tough to get around, is I naturally make things for an age group that is older than the picture book group. And it's a constant problem I've had where they're like, yeah, but it's not quite adult. We wouldn't go like on an adult cover or whatever. It's not quite YA and it's not quite kids book either. It's somewhere in the middle of those three somehow. And it's too sophisticated. Like the average picture book buyer or market kid is going to be 3 to 7. That's sort of your range. And then, you know, board books are going to skew lower, and then the upper range of that age is going to be segmenting into the YA stuff.
Chapter books and
just a little bit past that. So I just got to figure out where I land there, but I feel like I naturally draw 12 to 14-year-olds or 10 to 13-year-olds, I'd say, is the average person in my images that are supposed to be for kids.
Yeah.
And so I really
novel.
Oh man, I would, but it's just not, the ADHD is too strong.
I am,
There's
yeah,
no
I
way.
feel you. I feel
I
you
don't
there.
want to. I mean, I don't want to, unless I could change the format. I don't like comics. I'm going to go ahead and say that. I know I'm going to get hate mail. I don't like how many panels there are. I like a lot of times when I go to a comic shop, I'll find a cover and I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And I open it up and it's just all this stuff. It's just too much. And so
Yeah.
maybe if there's a way to simplify that, I would like just basically a long form kids book
Yeah.
where it's a little slower and not panels everywhere.
Yeah, do it. Do something like that.
Yeah,
That'd
you
be
should. There's
awesome.
I'm trying to find it because there's definitely a market, and I know I remember seeing that in a lot of publishing forums where the age group, I think it's like 11 is the most missed age group. Like if they're trying to find a niche for this age group that seems to be kind of missing a lot of books because they're in this in-between place. And I know someone we've talked about many times, Beatrice Alamea, she did a book that reminds me of yours, Lee, for it's some book that she had done that was kind of in between. And it's not a graphic novel, it's not a picture book, and it's not a young reader, but it's a shortened, illustrated, longer story. It's like about her Pebbles, a mermaid, and I'm trying to remember which one it is. I'm gonna find it. You guys keep
Please do.
talking.
I'd love to see that. But then I run into the problem where I pitch it to the editors, and I mean this is a real problem. Is where the art directors and editors, publishers in general, really do want to know where in the store this is going to go. It's if you're John Klassen or Dan Santat or Peter Brown, you can suggest anything you want at this point. They know there's going to be dollars behind it. If I suggest, hey, this is going to live by itself over here in no man's land in a bookstore, it's not a kid's book, it's not a graphic novel, they'll be like, no, we're not doing that.
I found it. I found it, by the way. It is a book written by David Almond called Annie Lumsden, the girl, Annie Lumsden, comma, the girl from the sea.
The girlfriend. Okay, I gotta look this up now.
Look
I'm
it up
very-
and
very
then
curious.
share the screen if you find it. But it has this beautiful in-between place that I think of you when you're talking about your work and how you feel like you're not sure where you land exactly. This to me might be kind of that sweet spot.
I like it. Thanks for the suggestion. I'm definitely gonna check that out. Let me ask you guys a question just real quick that pertains to this. It's not quite a non sequitur, but it sort of is. One thing that I get a lot when I was working with my last agent, that like say the book I'm writing right now, this girl who doesn't have a defined age, but let's just say she is in the picture book age range. She's 7 or 8. And in the book, she decides to head out on her own, to do something, to accomplish something, whatever the book's about. Is it weird to put that in a kid's book? I mean, does any parent look at that and say, well, this kid's going to go out unsupervised? Like, I think
Small
that's
in the city. Look at Small in the City.
that's what I
Small in
think.
the
I mean,
city.
does anyone care? But I got that so many times. Like, oh, what are the parents doing? Like, you never
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
Charlie Brown, they do all this stuff. There's never the parent is like never a part of them going and doing these, buying Christmas trees and say, what kid goes and buys a Christmas tree?
They
know.
can't even the adults in Charlie Brown don't even have like
Right,
voices
right.
that you can understand,
By the way,
right?
that's the best. That is the best interpretation of how parents are to kids in publishing history, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's perfect. But it's just a strange thing that I get, that I got from time to time recently, is that we're worried about these kids doing things on their like it's a real kid. It's not a real kid. It's a cartoon.
No, I get that a lot too. And it'll be feedback of, is the parent nearby? I can't see where the parent is. And I immediately go to Small in the City. It's because I'll think, well, how come that was a beautiful book. The child basically goes on a bus and goes into the city and they are very young and that's okay. And then other books, yeah, I don't know if it just depends on the publisher or what, but I do think that it's kind of gotten a little bit too carefully looking at all
I
of
know we
those
we had
angles.
Benji, what's his name, Benji Davis
Yes.
on the show, and he said that's just an American publisher problem.
Yeah, I
Oh,
don't think
really?
it's
Yeah, that's
as
right.
there's more freedom in the European market in terms of that for sure, where kids are exploring on their own and doing things and yeah.
I don't like that
brings
tendency.
me to another point is sometimes I find myself making the book for the editor something that's going to please the editor, please the art director. And what you have to remember too is that they can be caught up in this dichotomy as well, where they're like not really thinking about the audience, but really thinking about, is this going to win an award? Is this going to show up in this famous librarian's blog? Is this going to, be something that's talked about at ALA, right? And less concerned with kids at the recess, saying, "Oh yeah, have you heard about, I want my hat back," or whatever.
And I think that goes along the line too with this remembering too that kids are also just like adults, where not every show we watch needs to be teaching us something.
Right.
We want to get away from the stress of a job or whatever life and just watch an episode of Seinfeld. And I think there's this lean towards the more didactic, where even though, I've written didactic books and there's a place for them for sure, but there's also a place for pure books for just joy's sake, that are humorous, that are funny, that are respectfully giving kids an experience that's fun, an experience that's just the joy of picking up a book and interacting with the book and reading a toy, so to speak. It's just reading a toy.
Right.
And we can get too caught up in writing for parents and always feeling like every story has to have a moral and a lesson. And maybe out of respect for the kids, we give them that Seinfeld episode. We give them that
Yeah.
they deserve that
Well,
too.
I hope the publishing industry has bounced back a little bit, because over the past decade, it got really serious for whatever reason. And so you're getting a lot of biographies, and like, I understand that, because like it's great to teach a sort of a history lesson. Who's Louis Armstrong? Who made the cotton gin? Who did all this stuff? It's great, but I think there was like it just felt very preachy and learner centric. Like everything did have to have that some kind of learning component to it. And I agree with you though. As a kid, I wouldn't care about that at all. But I still think that component is still a part of publishing right now. I think it is starting to go the other way. I think John Klassen's book, The Skull, was a great one for getting away from that and just getting back into what happened to folk tales, what happened to just storytelling for storytelling's sake. And I don't know. It's weird when there's still that sort of push to these sort of tropes, like, okay, what's it going to teach? Is there some kind of lesson here that they can learn? And like, they'll put a bully in there, and I don't know. It's tough. So do you cater to that if you do a story that doesn't have that stuff in it, and they're like, oh, we need the motivation. Maybe there's a bully. They always want to add a bully and a couple of tropes.
Well, and again, this goes down to, I'm just going down this rabbit hole. So I was just thinking about one person that I know that talks about this a lot is Mac Barnett, and he's been very vocal about that. So I just quickly pulled that up, and I saw he has a really great quote about that, and said there's a lot of moralizing in picture books. Kids don't always need to be taught how to be good all the time. They also need to laugh, wonder, feel, and imagine. And it's just that balance. And I think that's where we have to really think about the audience that we're creating for. And that's basically where I'm going with it.
So let me ask you guys this. What are signs that you might be creating artwork or work that you're doing for your peers as opposed to for your audience?
It's a good question. I guess it depends on what you want to do with the image and the reaction that you're expecting. Because sometimes the right image for your audience is the wrong image for, say, social media or something like that. And so are you hoping for what are you hoping for when you make an image? Is it, hey, I'm hoping I get a good reaction from the people that matter here, or am I hoping for a general reaction from the world at large? And I think that's been tainted because of social media a little bit. Like, I was talking to my son the other day, and he was asking, I posted something earlier, and he's like, how many likes did you get? And I was like, oh, it's doing pretty good. It's got like 2,000 likes. And he's like, oh, That's sad. That's got, and I'm so happy because rarely does an image get that much for me. And so I'm like super, it's a rare one that does that for me. And, but their view of what success is, you know, I don't know what it's going to be like for this next generation coming up. If you need, you know, what is it, 10,000 people to like it immediately and be, you know, just completely, you know, fawning over it, or would it be better to get, like, if I had 5 editors or art directors, for example, that are sometimes on my list, emails or whatever, to write back and say, oh, I love that image, that would mean more to me than the 3,000 likes.
Yeah. I mean, in those thousands of likes, those are not thousands of your audience that are liking those.
It's
I mean,
artists. It's easy to impress artists. I'm going to go ahead and say that. It's very easy to get a like from an artist.
Yeah. I mean, there's a book that I'm working on right now, a board book that's very simple and it's geared towards kind of the 2-3-year-old age. And the troll I ended up drawing is just this scribble. I mean, I just took a crayon and I just did a scribble and plopped teeth and eyes. And
I
the
love that, by the
3-year-old
way.
down the street was like, ah! And loved this troll and it thought it was the best troll ever. And I'm just thinking, yeah, it's so simplified in a way that she could take this troll and make it her own. And I'm just kind of giving kids the agency to be able to take what they want and create their own stories from the stories I'm giving them. Whereas before, I think I was starting to just fill the pages up to almost to the point of being more complicated, the better. And just to show you like, actually, I can draw like this, or I can draw like so-and-so, and look how artsy it's getting. And
Right.
No, you nailed it with that. You did one version of the troll. That was a good enough troll, but it wasn't the scribble. And
It
then you
wasn't
went to
the
the scribble.
scribble.
And what I love about that is it really did land on how a troll feels versus how a troll looks to a kid. I mean, it just felt more trolly, even though there was nothing really there. And I think that's important to, and we get that a lot at SVS, like where we're almost designing as adults for ourselves as kids instead of designing as kids, if that makes sense. One of the tropes that I've seen from that one, and this will hopefully not hit anybody too hard, but if you're making this book, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and stop and come up with a different story. Here's the plot. This kid works too hard and they need something in order to let them find the play and things. I can promise you no kid has that problem. No kid works too hard. I've both seen published books of that and I've seen dummies of that. And it always is a little superficial. I got to say, I did a book with that as the plot. Ducks Don't Wear Socks with Penguin Putnam. And I did it okay, but like the first line was Emily was a serious girl and her friend Duck was like a little crazy. And so Duck through the book is trying to bring her to this crazy side. And I'm just thinking now in hindsight, no one is like this Emily girl. There is no kid like, oh, I wish I wasn't so focused on work.
Right. Well, I kind of get that too. Like, you look at Dan Santat's work, and he's so accomplished, and he has such a breadth of stuff that he's done. But I feel like you could tell which books he's made for kids, and which books he's made for the awards, and which books he's made to get to get noticed by certain people. Because like the Humpty Dumpty one is a phenomenal book, blew me away. But kids aren't. I don't know that kids are way into that. Do you know that book, Sam?
Yeah, I mean the Fall.
The Fall.
Yeah, I didn't read it, but I know of the book for sure.
What is the basic plot there? I think I've seen the
After
images.
the Fall. Is it called After
Yeah,
the
it's
Fall?
essentially when you've fallen off the wall, how you piece, what you do to piece yourself back together, and how do you overcome,
Right.
something.
I agree that no kid is like, oh man,
Right.
dealing
You
with
know
this
the
heavy
best
issue.
book, the best book I've read. I can't even say it, speak because I'm like, blah. I'm a Bob Shea fan, but the Bear Suit Turtle book, that is just beautifully written. It is
Okay.
beautifully written.
What's it called? I don't know
Bear
that
Suit
one.
Turtle, I believe is what it's called. Bear Suit Turtle.
look
I
it up.
mean, it's this one. Actually, I have
Oh,
it on my
that's
desk.
I could see why that is definitely
Oh,
living in your
but
world.
just can I just for a second read a line, and I want to show what I talk about in terms of who the audience is. So in the beginning, it's just a turtle comes across a bear suit turtle, and it's like, be careful, I'm a for real bear. Scary, right? And then, no way, I'm a for real bear expert, and you're not a for real bear. But it's just all these things. Like, it's just genius because it's just spoken in this language that's it's just amazing. And so to
So
me,
good.
that's where he's writing for the audience.
Mhm.
And it's like, that proves nothing. You could be a super round squirrel. Let's see you hibernate like a for real bear. And he's like, "Pff, so easy. I hibernate like 5 times a day. And then it's, but it's that kind of prose that I just thought this is genius. He knows his audience, and this is probably going to do really well. It just came out, and it's written for a particular audience, and it's done so brilliantly well.
See, I
That-
think we can keep things a lot simpler than we think that we can. I mean, that's such a simple premise, and it's written in such. I always go back to "Don't Let Pigeon Drive the Bus." It's sort of that same voice a little bit, and like it's just so funny that I mean, there's no lesson, there's not a lot of environment, there's not a lot of stuff. It's a very simple idea executed simply, and I wish I had that ability. I can't do it.
Yeah. I mean, the most, and I'm just such a fan. I'm gonna just do one more, okay?
Okay.
There's
Yeah.
this spread here where they're like smashing pumpkins off the rock.
Like the band.
Yeah, it says, "Behold, I am the Pumpkin King, benevolent smasher of pumpkins." And then the next spread goes, "I am also the Pumpkin King, and that other thing you said." Like, come on.
That's good writing.
Yeah.
That's good
Anyway.
writing. I was questioning the use of benevolent, but that's a great save right
So
there.
good. It's the Bob Shea podcast episode.
Right.
All right.
So I
But-
think going back to that question though, like signs
How
or
do you
red
know?
flags that you're creating for the wrong audience, and just in listening to what we've been talking about here, I think one of the things is, are you obsessed over technical ability and skill in the work that you're doing? Because that might be like a sign that you're more concerned about what your peers think about you than what your actual audience does. Because kids, going back to the troll thing, kid don't care if a troll has, you know, glossy rim lighting on it and it looks like like he's, you know, just stepped out of a swamp. Kids want that, you know, emotion, and even they like seeing art that they can reproduce themselves.
I think
as
that's
well.
true.
So
Definitely.
I think that's one of them. I think another one is are you posting it on social media and paying really close attention to how many people are liking it and who's commenting on it? That's another sign that you're like, this isn't for my audience. This is more for my peers, right? And
Well,
I
that's
like.
also why. Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say I
interrupted.
like what Lee said. Is like artists are very generous with their likes.
Yeah. Yeah, they are. And that's also part why I left social media was because
Mhm.
it was affecting me where I was starting to produce for the wrong affirmations. I was
Mhm.
doing it to get, oh my gosh, so and so liked it. So and so liked it. This person that's really well known in the industry liked it. And that's where, and then I was starting to try to impress them even
Yeah.
more. And oh, they're following me. I got to impress them right now. And so I ultimately left because that was starting to mess with me. I just was doing that. And
Yeah. Well, I've got a quote. I've got a saying that goes with this, and that's peers may respect your skills, but they won't pay your bills.
Ooh.
So
Where'd you get
can
that?
take
Who
to
said
the
that?
bank. It doesn't matter.
except if it's Sam, because I buy way too many books. I buy lots of books.
Jay
Right.
quoting something and then not giving us the quote. What's up with that?
No, it's something just came up with. But if you think about it too, you know, a good example is like a Kickstarter project for me is predominantly purchased by, I think, people who are my contemporaries, people who are into drawing and into art. But then when I did a Missile Mouse book, and my Kickstarter, I could get 1,000 people, sometimes 2,000 people to back up a project. But like my Missile Mouse graphic novel series, that sold over 100,000 copies, 150,000 copies to children. And it's again, I worked with the publisher, so there was that whole distribution line set up. But had I made that book for Kickstarter, I don't know that it would have done as well as doing it in basically staying in the lane that it was intended for.
And Missile Mouse is the book that started my kids into comics. And that was from being at the library, and the book was sitting out. And I remember my eldest was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool, as when he was little, and grabbed it and became obsessed, to the point where, and I've shared this with you, way before I even got to meet you and like officially get to know you as a person, our wall of height markers and pencil every year, every year you get mark your height, and they used to do a little drawing of what they were into at that time.
Oh yeah.
And there's like this little square with a stick figure mouse, and it says Mizzle Mouse.
I
And
love
think
it.
He was 6 or 7.
That's
But
awesome.
obsessed. I
Yeah.
mean, and that was not me picking out the book thinking you would like this. It's not this was him seeing it on the shelf in the library and like,
Yeah.
that's so cool. Yeah, that you're spot on with that. That was such a good series.
So let me ask you guys this. Is it wrong to make stuff to impress your peers though? I mean, what can you get from that? Why is there a reason or a situation where you should be reaching for that?
I mean, it depends. I mean, I think it can do both. I mean, good
Yeah.
art is good art. I mean, when I see a very well done, I mean, I think of some of the early images I saw from Sean Tan, and I think to myself, well, that's doing, twice the work. I mean, it may be for a little bit older audience. So then, of course, I respond to it because that's my critique I get, like I said. But then the technical side of it and the art of it, especially with that book he did with the black and white book, more graphic novel, the Traveler or something, incredible. I mean, I'm super, super jelly over how good that work was technically as an artist. But then I also think it was good storytelling. And there's a couple of books by him, the books by Elizabeth Werger that I always go back to as a standard. Of course, those are dated at this point, so I probably need to branch out from using her as an example. Isabel Arsenal. I mean, just there's so many books that I just drool over as an artist, but I also think they fit where they were supposed to.
Yeah, that's true. And within that realm too, aspiring and trying to impress in a way is leveling you up when there is a level of leveling up that's going to happen for that. Not that I would be creating a picture book, but maybe it would just be in my artwork that I'm doing something. I'm not sure. There's a hazy, I don't know. It's a good one to think about.
It's really good though to define before you're making something who the audience is. I really do think that there's a benefit to that, and what you want the image to accomplish. I mean, that's one of the things that we critique a lot with the contests that we run. We do a How to Fix Your Art contest every month at SVS, and one of the first things is, what do you want me to think about this? Well, who's your viewer? Who's your audience for this, and how did you accomplish communication to that audience? I think a lot of times they just start with an idea and they just start drawing and they don't answer those questions, like what composition would work best for telling this story, what palette would work best for telling the story, who is my audience, young or old, like, what does the audience already know or not know? And so just starting to define these questions is super important to getting successful images that then once you make them, the criteria is, did it do what you wanted it to do? For example, some of the images I made last month are specifically for art prints, especially the ones for the skiing and all that stuff. I am adding a little skiing moose to every one of those, by the way, because I got so many comments about where's the moose. But they had a very specific goal, and so that's my criteria. Like, now I know, is it successful? Did it sell as a print? Did it get me into an art show that I wasn't getting into otherwise? And what is it doing? And then so I'm doing this picture book now. That's going to a potential agent, and then obviously potential publishers. If that sells, then I did my job for the audience that's supposed to. So if you set that criteria, here's the audience, and here's what I want to happen next. Right? I mean,
That's
is that a fair way?
Yeah. No, I think that's totally right. I mean, if you're wanting to create something to oppress another artist and it's truly what you want to do, then don't be upset if the kid, if it's the other audience is like, I don't really like this book. And you're like, well, you didn't make it for that audience. So you
I
just
mean,
own it.
you could see this. You see this in children's books. You also see it in film too. And I always come back to like Christopher Nolan, and how here's this guy who he's like this auteur filmmaker who's like who makes this film Memento, which is like
Oh, so good.
yeah, it's got like this weird thing happening with time and everything, and then all of a sudden he's tapped to do the Batman movie, the Batman Begins movie, and reboot Batman. And so essentially the deal he made with Warner Brothers is I'm going to do one for the audience, and I'm going to do one for me. So I'm going to do Batman, The Prestige, another Batman movie, Inception, another Batman movie, and I forget what the next one was, Dunkirk or something like that. And so I think as an artist, you always have to know, whether it's with a single piece or whether it's a project, who am I making this for, and what is its ultimate purpose? Is it for me? Is it for an audience? Is it to impress my peers? And as long as you're very clear on why you're doing it, I think it's okay to do it for that reason. Like when you're making something to impress other people, it's going to sharpen your skills. It's going to make you push yourself a little bit out of your comfort zone. When you're doing something just for yourself, that's where you might atrophy a little bit in your skills, and it's just comfortable and fun, but you don't practice a new lighting situation, or you don't practice a new rendering style. So I think just be honest and know what you're doing, and it's gonna help with your own mental health. You're gonna make more honest work, and I think it's just gonna be better for both your audience and for you as an artist.
Yeah,
as
you should
well.
have just led with that. You summed it up really well. So whatever you just said now, that's the
Do
whole
that.
episode.
Do that.
Do that. Well, if there's nothing more to say on this, should we go to that question?
Sure.
Okay. This one comes in from Robert. And he says, you guys talk, the subject is hearing voices. He says, you guys talk a lot about finding your voice when it comes to your artwork and style. Can you explain a little bit more about what exactly that means? Could you possibly explain what your voice is with your own artwork so we could see an example, or give examples of other famous illustrators and what their voice is? So this is a good question. We'll start with giving examples of other famous illustrators, and let's compare John Klassen with Chris Van Allsburg.
I
Okay.
gotta look up Chris Van Allsburg.
Oh my gosh. Get off the
You
show.
serious?
Get out of here. You're in
Oh my gosh.
timeout for 5 minutes.
She's gonna be like,
5-minute
Chris
timeout.
Van Allsburg
Have you heard of Jumanji and
Oh,
and the Polar Express.
Polar
We will-
Express? You may have heard of it. Caldecott.
edit.
He's won like 5 Caldecotts.
Okay,
I
fine.
think they
We will
created the
edit this part
Caldecott
out.
for him.
Let's please edit this part out, please.
No. Keep it in there.
No, I totally do, because I know it's even worse, because one of my favorite illustrations of all time is by him.
Classic.
The one where the guy is with the chair over his,
Yeah,
and there's the lump in the rug.
yeah.
I was just
That was a
testing
great
you
book.
guys.
That was
Amazing.
a great book.
I was just testing you guys.
I appreciate it. I
Same.
appreciate that test.
Good save.
But I get your point. Like, he hasn't really been a part of the zeitgeist really in publishing for how long? I mean, ever since they started making movies out of his books.
Yeah, I mean he's sort of phased out at this point, I think. Is that safe
But
to say?
going back to voice. Voice is a little bit of what's your taste what is your intention, what is your personality, um, and by that I mean, you have friends who are serious, you have friends who are goofballs, you have
Mhm.
friends who are like OCD about stuff, and then you have friends who like are super chill about stuff, right? And so your voice in your illustration is sort of your personality showing up in your illustration. And when you look at John Klassen, his voice is um, a mix, and we're talking story and visuals here, so it's a mix between very simple looking illustrations, but compositionally very well done, but then stories that have kind of a wry sense of humor to them, and a little bit of a wink and a nod, right? Like uh, you kids are gonna like this. The bear eats the rabbit, right? Chris van Allsburg, his illustrations are very much steeped in um, rendering, like detailed rendering, light and shadow, capturing a particular vibe, almost like a photographer would, but using like a nostalgic lens filter on it. And then the stories are going to be uh, as fanciful and as imaginative, like kid versions of like, what if there was a train that took you straight to the North Pole, right? Or what if there was a board game about uh, safari animals that the animals come to life, right?
Well, let me
Um,
add real quick to Chris Van Allsburg. 'Cause I actually had a Chris Van Allsburg assignment in school because he's so consistent
okay.
with what his stories are that it became sort of a would the right word be trope or a
Yeah.
I don't know if
Okay.
that's the right
Tropey.
word, but I'm just gonna throw it out there. It's a trope. But if you look at, like, the common denominator for every Chris Van Allsburg story is you take object A and you move it to place B that it doesn't belong. So with
Mm,
Jumanji, you've got the jungle in the neighborhood, and in that, monkeys in the kitchen is sort of where that came from. Then
yeah.
Zathura is Victorian house now in space, and
Mhm.
the Polar Express is train off the tracks and now in the North Pole. So he sort of does that every single time.
Yeah.
And if you use that as a base, I would have my students just use that as a starting point. And the work that came out of that was unbelievable because when you move something to where it's not supposed to be, it's instantly already interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, side note.
And I think with John Klassen, I guess if you were to boil it down, it's it would be have an ending that actually goes where you didn't think it was going to go.
True.
you know?
Yeah. A little twist.
The
A little
unexpected twist. Yeah.
twist.
Right.
Yeah, and I think your voice. It's funny because you've talked long enough that I forgot what the question was. But not that it's a bad thing. It's
It
just
was how do you define your
Voice.
voice and your style? I mean, one of the things that I use as a driving sort of point to the work that I try to make is I always go back to the idea, even though this isn't the theme, it's the idea of the image that is like a kid finding a key in an attic. And what does the key go to? And like those are the stories that really get me going. So it could be defined under that sort of umbrella. There's always this sort of searching, there's always this sort of magic, there's always this sort of theme. And so that's what becomes voice to me, whether it's done in a watercolor style or a graphic kind of printmaking style or whatever. That's sort of the hallmark, I guess. And so that's what style is to me, is these certain hallmarks that someone does.
Yeah. And I think the difference between voice and style, I guess I would look at it as you can have a bunch of different styles under your voice. And the
Right.
voice
That's
is
good.
more just the culmination of your own, just where you grew up, your own experiences growing up, your influences, things you've tried, things you've practiced, your own, just how Jake was saying, your own personality traits. If you're that all lends itself into this library of a voice that kind of eventually just happens over time. Like handwriting, and I think Jake's talked about that before. When you first start handwriting, learning to write, I
Uh-huh.
think of all the workbooks as a kid, and you're tracing letters, you're learning how to write letters, and you may be copying different people and the way they write over time. And then over years, eventually your own handwriting style kind of emerges, or your voice. And
Hmm.
I think it's a culmination of everything that you've drawn in. So everybody's going to have a different voice because everybody's had different experiences and
Right.
just
But I think you can also control the flow of where your voice goes. So in a way, so let's say you take John Klassen and he wants to be a little bit funny and a little bit irreverent. But let's say you take that same style and then you want to do whimsical and like um, fantasy with it, and maybe take it a little bit more serious. Like,
Mhm.
so it could be, the style could be exactly the same, but instead of a bear looking for his hat, it could be a girl lost in an underground world where she can't escape, but it's still the same visual style. But now the tone shifted because your voice is, I'm gonna go a little creepy or a little bit whimsy, that type of thing. So you think about like Tim Burton, right, and his drawing style, and how it's like quirky, and he puts stripes on everything, but also the stories that he's really interested in is kind of like an Edward Gorey type of thing. Like, what if there was a man who had scissors for hands, or what if there was did he do Beetlejuice?
Yeah.
He-
Yep.
yeah. What if there was a ghost trapped in a house, but he was super like irreverent and not like not like scary spooky, but like silly spooky, So you could just, I think what it is you figure out, do I want to be funny with it? Do I want to be serious with it? Do I want to have a sense of awe and wonder with my art? Do I want to have a sense of like exploration and discovery with my art, right? That's all playing into your voice. It's the tone, and then you can use whatever visuals you want to best facilitate that style, that tone that you want to deliver, and that's where I think voice overall comes from.
That's
So,
good.
yeah, I mean, if you look at the three of us and you think about, if the assignment was, you know, draw somebody reading a book. Lee's gonna draw a tiny little girl on a lily pad. Sam's gonna draw. What would you do for that?
Well, now it would just be like a triangle on a square.
Yeah, exactly. A triangle on a square.
Some witty text.
Right. And what am I gonna do? I'm gonna be like, it'll be some kid in an alien library, and he's trying to like read a book, but there's an alien with like 500 eyeballs, like trying to read it with them or something like
Yeah.
that.
But my voice could create a bunch of different styles of that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So like I'm thinking, whether you like Billy Joel or not, there's that new documentary out about his work.
Oh, really?
And I found it fascinating because his voice was really about speaking at the level of what everybody kind of goes through in terms of the struggles of being an adult, and like just it just was it's a very relatable type of music. But then I didn't realize, when you go through all the albums he's done, the fact that he created a classical album that was just classical music, and then just such different styles, and because he just felt in that moment like this is what this needed. But the voice carried through. The voice was there. That was a very Billy Joel voice in terms of his approach of how he connected with people, that they resonated in a way that they could connect their own lives,
Yeah.
even though the styles of each album changed drastically. it was all under his voice. I
There's
don't
still
know.
Billy Joel. You could still see the Billy Joel in it.
You could still see the Billy Joel. I mean, it's a
You'd feel it.
fascinating documentary, so you should watch it for that. I mean,
Hmm.
it is interesting to see how his mind works as an artist too. But that
Yeah.
idea that you can have completely different styles under the envelope of your voice, and I think that's important.
Do you ever see that Billy Joel video where he's playing at like a music university, and I don't know if it's the one in Manhattan or somewhere, but it's some prestigious one, right? And so it's an audience of like real musicians, like all these students, and here's Billy Joel, and he's giving a performance, but he's also talking about music and everything, and he's taking questions. And one kid raises his hand, and he's like, "Hey, can I play for you? Can I be your piano guy while you sing?" And the guy's like, "Shoot your shot." And Billy Joel's like, "Come on up, you know." And so this kid is now on stage in front of all of his peers again, but also in front of like his idol. And I forget what song he plays, but I think it's New York State of Mind or something like that. And he's like, "Are you ready?" And the kid's like, "Yeah, what key do you want it in?" Which, to be able to play a song in one key is phenomenal enough, but to be able to then transition it to minor or major or whatever, G or C, or I don't know, all the different things with piano. And so Billy Joel's like, "Let's do it in this one." He's like, "Okay." And then the kid like knocks it out of the park, and Billy Joel's like, "Yeah, we'll be contacting you."
For him, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I don't know why I wanted to tell that story other than I thought it was cool, but and what it has to do with this whole
Hey,
topic.
Well, did it have to do with voice and style? I mean, did he change his
He
voice?
did. You could tell that it wasn't Billy Joel playing it. It was this kid bringing himself to it as well, which was nice. And sometimes you do have to shoot your shot.
I didn't know that Billy Joel made a classical album. We're at a weird stage in life where there's people that we grew up that grew up famous, and you've I kind of discount them as cheesy. Like Billy Joel would not be my favorite musician. Just definitely not. But you find out something like that, and then
Right.
all of a sudden I have this newfound respect for him. This is off topic a little bit, but one of the people that I've heard an interview, well, two actually, people that I heard interviews with, Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger. They were just action stars to me as a kid, and I didn't like that kind of stuff. I thought it was cheesy. I thought it was commercial. And both of those guys are especially Sylvester Stallone, very articulate, care about storytelling. I didn't know that he actually wrote Rocky.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, and it's a love story with boxing as the setting, but it's not really a boxing movie. The later ones became boxing movies, but the
Right.
first one was a really nice thing. And he just wrote this other thing, a show that's on Netflix right now, that the first season is pretty good. Anyway, my point is, like, I had discounted these people because I thought their voice was one thing, and they really are much more complicated and interesting than I thought.
yeah, that's
Later.
exactly kind of how I felt watching this documentary. I was
Yeah.
almost felt guilty for a moment. I was like, "Oh my gosh, he's a genius in so many ways." I didn't even realize, exactly what you said, because it wasn't. I just heard it was a really good documentary and just started to watch it, and
Yeah.
it's kind of exactly what you just said, Will or Lee. Sorry,
There's
I
like
called
a-
you Will.
Well, it goes to, we were talking about bringing Will back on, so maybe it's in the air. Got to see what Will's up to.
There's a class of musician, and maybe you guys have this too, and Billy Joel is it for me, and obviously for you, where you have heard all of their songs pretty much. You maybe even have words memorized to them, yet you do not have an album. You have never purchased a Billy
Right.
Joel album,
Oh, for sure.
right?
Never
And
ever.
I have that with, like, I would say, there's there's like a bunch of, like, Third Eye Blind. I've never bought a Third Eye Blind album, but they were playing on the radio, and I was like, "How's it gonna be when you don't know me?" I was like, "How do I know all these words?"
Mine was Daryl Hall and John Oates, but I was the opposite, where I had multiple copies of each tape because I was worried I would lose one of the cassettes.
Oh my gosh.
I thought that I was supposed to marry Daryl Hall at some point, but
Are you a
I
man
was
eater?
a member of their fan club. I used to write them letters every week. I never got one back, but wrote them. And then my dad went to a racetrack event, and I guess John Oates was really super into car racing, and he got pictures of his hand holding a flag at the
What?
cars. And so I put them all over my bedroom wall. I just have a hand, I had pictures of a hand, but it was John Oates's hand holding a flag. And then, can we just get even more weird? I had 2 glass jars, one called Daryl Hall and one called John Oates, and that in case this was the plan, I was in 5th grade, okay? Bear with me. The plan was if I ever walked past them coming off an elevator, I would subtly scrape their arm with their jar to collect their sweat so I could store it on my shelf.
I mean, who's not doing that? That's everybody's doing that.
So every time an elevator, I'd be like, what if, because they met on an
Damn.
elevator. So I'm like, what if it comes full circle and they come off the elevator? I'm going to have my jars ready so I can just get a little of their
So you
sweat.
just carried jars with you all around town?
I don't think my mom actually let me do that, but that was the plan.
But that was the plan.
I love
So-
the plans like that. At least I mean, you were young when you did that, so that's excusable. I sent a message to The Rock yesterday.
You
might
have
not.
not let this rock thing go. Because
I
didn't you go
can't.
to school with him, high school with him?
I
or
went to
something?
school with him and I can't get through. I just know. Here's what plays out in my head, like your elevator scene. He writes me back and saying, "Oh my gosh, I remember you. You were so popular. I didn't think I could talk to you." Okay, that's how it starts. Because he was like I think he was like a year or 2 behind me. So I was a senior. You know how that goes. Like some senior, don't talk to me, freshman. But then
That is wild. So Sam, next time we bring you on the podcast, we're gonna have a little intro music as we introduce you.
She's a man eater.
Oh, here she
Oh,
comes.
here she comes. Watch out, boy. She'll chew you up.
you should go to a
boys.
show there. All these old bands are playing again now. Have you seen them? Like Guns N' Roses. They should not be playing. The music is absolutely terrible. One thing that I have seen, this is an interesting little moment as well. Like I'd never liked Bruce Springsteen growing up. I mean, it's just I was just an alternative kid. I like New Order and punk rock, more punk rock than New Order, but
Yeah.
that was like the most mainstream I would have gone. So I didn't listen to Bruce Springsteen, but lately on my Pandora stations, a couple of them that I listen to, some people have done some remakes of Bruce Springsteen songs. One of them is Dancing in the Dark, and they're slower versions of it. It's not like a rock anthem anymore. It's a slow, like almost acoustic. And I'm listening to it. I'm like, I know this music, and the words are beautiful, gorgeous writing. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, that's Bruce Springsteen.
Wow. Yeah, because I was more in high school. It was more Meat Puppets and Primus and all that kind of stuff. I was not, exactly the same way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's interesting
Daryl
that you
Hall.
have the, of course.
There's this guy I like on YouTube. His name's Alex Melton, and what he does is he's been taking these classic alternative or grunge stuff from the 90s and some stuff from the 2000s, right? And he turns them into he'll take them and switch them into emo, like 2010s emo anthems, like rock anthems, right? So because he's like this millennial guy, and the music he grew up with was the names are escaping me now, but he grew up with a certain set of style of music, but then he's taking all the music that Gen X loves and he's filtering it through his style of music. And it's actually pretty darn good. It's pretty
I'll
darn
have to look
good.
him up.
Jake, what did you listen to in high school? So Sam and I have given you kind of a sense of what we liked. What were you listening
What do you
to?
think?
If I had to guess, you would be a Belinda Carlisle.
No.
No. You'd be a. I'm trying. What year did you graduate? Let me just get the arrow right.
95.
95. Okay, so you wouldn't have gone Nirvana, but you would have gone a lighter version of that. So you would be like maybe Blink 182.
I'm gonna tell you, and you're gonna be like, oh, of course.
You're a Dave Matthews Band kind of guy.
Dave
I listened
Matthews.
to the Jurassic Park soundtrack on repeat.
I thought you were gonna say Jurassic 5, and I was gonna have a whole new side of respect for
No.
you. And then it just went right downhill with the dinosaurs.
I had basically two sides, two versions of music I listened to. Like there was creative drawing time music, which
Mm-hmm.
was movie soundtracks and classical music, and then there was just getting pumped and going out and having fun with friends and everything. So it was obviously Weezer. Went to the Weezer concert.
There we go. That's
Uh,
sort of what I was looking for.
Sponge, just kind of these like weird alternative stuff from the 90s. I did get way into like the Police. I love the Police.
Great
and I know
band there. Great
they were a
music.
little bit before my time, but they were right in my pocket. I love them. The Police and Sting.
I think I am like trying to think for me it was more Clash. For sure the Clash, but I'm thinking like I'm going through my lists right now because I'm very much like Arctic Monkeys, The Strokes. I
Mhm.
like all that kind of stuff, Echo and the Bunnymen kind of thing. But then for art school, I did my entire thesis replaying Austin Powers soundtrack. It's so good, by the way.
Okay.
But but that's the thing. If I have an album I like, I just replay
Mhm.
until I get sick of it. And right now it's Fontaine's DC, which I talk about all the time. I'm just replay.
I'm doing Block Party right now, over and over and over again. Same thing.
Yeah.
Dang.
Anyway.
I've been doing a ton of Black Keys lately.
That's good music.
That's
Yeah.
good. All right, we'll give you
That's
that one.
a little better than Jurassic Park soundtrack.
John Williams, he's the greatest
Wow.
composer of our time.
Okay, I'm gonna Google him.
I a lot of times would ask my students what they want to listen to when we're drawing, and I've told you about the bagpipes and stuff before. But a lot of times when they did chime in the music they wanted to listen to, it was soundtracks to things, and I couldn't believe it. Some of them were just pure classical, and they all knew them. They all knew it,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt so stupid. I'd be like, "Yeah, I know this. Of course, I know this too." But
Yeah,
Totally.
the kids these days, they love that stuff. They're gonna be all right.
kids are
The
all right.
kids these days says it all, Jake.
Should we wrap it up? Can we please wrap this up?
That was some good banter right there at the end. We covered everything we needed to for our show.
We
did.
We really
Sweat
did.
jars. That's all we need to leave with. Sweat jars.
You know, I do have these fantasies of meeting certain celebrities in an elevator. It's always in an elevator, and saying something like recognizing them from the thing you should not recognize them from. So one in particular, Sting, right?
That's so funny.
You see Sting, you're not going to be like, I'm such a big fan of the Police. No, the thing you say to him is, you were the guy in Dune. You played the bad guy with the weird hair in Dune. I recognize you. Like the one obscure thing that they don't want anybody to remember.
That's amazing, actually.
That's the thing you recognize.
Did you see the SNL skit of that?
No.
No.
It's well, the elevator thing reminded me of it, but and it's with Sting, and he gets in the elevator, and then like Chris Farley gets in the elevator, whoever it is, I can't remember who it is, but then they just start to Roxanne. You don't have to put on the red. And they're just singing in front of Sting. It's so good. It's so funny. You should Google it.
That's hilarious.
It's a good one.
All right.
All
I'll
right.
have to look it up. I'll have to look it up alongside those other people.
Well, you're looking up Sting?
No, I was just joking.
The
Referring to
SNL. Look up the SNL skit, though. It's funny.
I
It's
will.
good.
I
It's
will.
good stuff.
I like at this point. She doesn't know Chris Van Allsburg.
And John Williams.
Doesn't know John Williams. So obviously doesn't know Sting. It's like the opposite of that movie Yesterday. Did you see that movie Yesterday?
That
Where-
was so good.
yeah.
No, I gotta look that up.
Oh no! So it's this kid. I can't remember how he gets in the alternate universe, but he's in a universe
gets
where
hit
the
by a bus at the same time that the whole world, like the power goes out in the entire world.
Yes, I did see it. I just looked it up. I'm not
Yeah,
good
yeah.
with names and things like that.
I agree. I
That's
fall
fine.
victim to that a lot. I can't remember nothing.
But whereas nobody remembers the Beatles and he's the only one that remembers the Beatles.
Yeah.
For Sam, everybody remembers the Beatles and she's the only one that's forgotten them.
Look, my mom was chased down the beach by the Beatles, so I will never not
She
know.
was?
Yeah, she was because grew up in England. My mom was on the beach, and then all of a sudden the big tour bus pulls up, And then out popped the Beatles, and they needed to film a bunch of girls chasing them. I think it was in a Hard Day's Night movie. I'm trying to remember. So she was picked, but she's like,
Your mom is in A Hard Day's Night.
she's like, I don't think I could keep up, so I'm not sure I'm actually on it, but I kept running. So I'll have to play it. But yeah, she was in the chase scene. And then I remember before that, my mom said that my granddad came home and just said, there's a new band called the Beatles. And my mom's like, well, that's a silly name. And then she's like, that's not going to catch on. But yeah, no, I think it's a hard, whatever the movie is where there's a chase scene on a beach.
Yeah, I think you got it right.
So my mom was there.
We need that story for the podcast for sure.
That's all I got. That's the story.
That's a good
That's
one.
it.
I mean, that's sort of what everybody dreams of, right? Is like when I lived in Atlanta, they're filming a lot. There's a lot of movie films and stuff going on. And so we drive by or walk by or whatever. And I always think like, we need one extra person. And then I'm walking by and then they invite me onto the set. Like that's the dream. And your mom actually had that happen.
She did.
When did you live in Atlanta?
Post high school, pre-California. So
okay, I did not know about that chapter. So it was like 2 months.
No, like 4 or 5 years. 2019 or what? I was 19. So 1989 through 94.
Why were you there?
Atlanta is the jumping off point for people trying to get the hell out of the South. You start out in some BFE town. Atlanta's the first one you go to because that's like an international city, but it's close, and then you jump. So it's a launching pad.
That's awesome. Okay, that's amazing. All right, everybody.
guys.
Thank you for joining us. 3-Point Perspective is made possible by SVSLEARN. We're becoming a great illustrator starts, and your hosts today were Lee White, Sam Cotterill, and I'm Jake Parker. We just want to give a shout out to everybody over at SVSLEARN who helps make this podcast and the whole thing run, make it possible. So special thanks to our podcast producer, Daniel Tu, our team manager, Preston Smith, keeper of the curriculum and the community, Austin Shirtliff, our show notes wrangler, Lily Howell, chief operations officer, Lisa Fott, and our illustrator, Annalise Black. Now go draw something. I really said that, go draw something weekly. Now go draw something. Go draw something.
That was good. That was good. You brought
That
out some
show
stories.
had the flow. It had a good flow.